I'm surveilled as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. Max Freeman. Welcome to the show. This is how I feel right now. Let me make sure that this thing is on mute. Yes, it is. Max Freeman, I made this because the fact is, and we're going to unpack this today, is that Bitcoin is surveilling everything you do on that blockchain. It is like you go into the bathroom with a glass door. All your neighbors can see it. And, you know, to me, that just doesn't feel right. Doesn't mean I'm doing anything illegal in my bathroom. I just don't want you to see me going there. So we're going to talk about Bitcoin. We're going to talk about when it was launched and what technology it had at its avail when it did back in 2009 when Satoshi unleashed it on the world. But I just want everyone to look at this closely. I'm surveilled as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore. If you take a look, there's a solution down in the lower right. Epic.tech. Go there. Greetings, everyone. This is Uncle V, Uncle Vigilante, Uncle Odd, Todd, whatever you want to call me. Just don't call me late for Sundays at noon with EpicCash Live with my good friend, Max Freeman, founder of EpicCash and the entire ecosystem associated with it. And spirit of full disclosure, Max triggered me yesterday. Yeah, he triggered me with one sentence. EpicCash is invisible Bitcoin. For me, that was like mic freaking drop. Max Freeman, welcome to the show. Would you please unpack that a little bit? What do you mean by that? EpicCash is invisible Bitcoin.
Yeah, that I feel a little silly for not realizing it all these years myself, because I think it encapsulates the point of it quite nicely. Bitcoin is first and foremost a scarcity system. It's a financial battery where you put a value in and you hope to be able to get that value back out in the future. You can kind of think of it as a value warehouse where you've got trucks lining up outside. Imagine a big Amazon warehouse where they're warehousing people's goods, moving the orders in and out. And in BTC, everybody can see all the activity of everyone else. You mentioned a glass door on a bathroom. It gets even worse because the recording of that is available forever. And it's immutable and permanent. So there's nothing that anyone can do about it. And in an era of cancel culture, that's very dangerous because they're tearing down statues of people that used to be heroes, but now they're judged by today's ideas rather than the ideas of their time. And all of a sudden they're bad people and insensitive and all that. So it's quite dangerous to be transacting on these surveillance enabled blockchains like BTC.
Well,
so anyway, so Epic is all the Bitcoin goodness as far as that scarcity system and the way the proof of work accumulates the protection of value and the halvings and all of that. But it does so in a way where your activity is between you and the blockchain, or I guess the counterparty that you're transacting with as well. Nobody can see anything about anyone else's transactions. And so it's invisible to most forms of scrutiny.
So everyone, when you see Uncle Vigilante looking down, please do not ever think that I am distracted or that I am being disrespectful to my guests, because Max told me how he keeps track of everything. This is not a promotion, but this is called a remarkable two, to where I'm a yellow sticky dude, man. They're all over my house. And Max said, Uncle V, not necessary. Why don't you get a remarkable two? So I was just writing down a note here that is EpicCash is all the Bitcoin goodness plus privacy. What's cool about this is I can convert it into text if I wish, or just keep it here. So I just wanted to say that because this is going to get good, because now I can take notes and keep them electronically instead of having a pile of yellow stickies that I don't know if I'll ever go back through. So thank you for that recommendation, Max. The Remarkable 2 tablet did change your life, right?
Yeah, I'm up to, I think, just shy of 300 notebooks myself. So welcome to the rabbit hole.
Well, it's great. I started playing around with mine yesterday, and I literally got a pile of yellow stickies, and I used those as, okay, let me start organize. Where would that have gone if I would have had one of those? And I started creating my file folder system. So thank you. Yesterday you and I had a conversation, and I realized something. I'm like, okay, how do we articulate all the goodness of EpicCash? Because you say EpicCash is HTTPS Bitcoin. But then I was asking you, when we rewind and we go back to when Satoshi Nakamoto actually released the white paper, was privacy ever built in within that original white paper, or was it just anonymous? And I think I know the answer, but let us know what you think and explain the difference between anonymous and private.
So I've been trying to understand the difference better myself lately. You and I did a bit of homework before the show to prepare. So I wouldn't claim to be an expert on this, but I would say that Epic is both private and anonymous, according to the definitions that we'll uncover through that document that we found, and any others that we choose to go through. How would we best describe it? Anonymity is somebody's doing something, but you don't know who it is, and privacy is how would you put it?
Invisible.
Yeah. Excuse me.
Invisible.
Yeah, I went down the rabbit hole on this. I looked at Stack Exchange, and I looked at that presentation from whatever university that was. Why don't we try to get our hands around it together, because a lot of the definitions out there aren't really financial privacy or cryptocurrency focused, and
Sure.
so they kind of lead us astray.
Let me share with you where I'm going with this, and so. Basically, Bitcoin was brought to the world in 2009, and it took a bit of time to be discovered. And I think what everybody thought back then was, this is a way that Bitcoin was digital cash, basically. This is really cool. If I want to pay my neighbor kid to mow my lawn $50, I have cash and I can give it to the kid and he's going to receive it. And, that's private between us. There's nowhere where that transaction is actually stored where somebody could come back later and say, hey, Uncle V paid neighbor B $50 in cash. And so, but back then, it was a digital means to be able to transact value to where nobody knew it was you and this other person necessarily. This is what I'm trying to wrap my head around, because enter 2016, I believe it was August, when Mimblewimble made the scene to where it could take this incredible blockchain called Bitcoin, and it could actually, make it what everybody thought it was, which is, as you said, invisible. And so I'm sitting here thinking, well, to me, EpicCash has all of the positive attributes of the original Bitcoin vision of the white paper, but the benefit of advanced technology that allows it to truly be a non-surveillance coin. And so now I'm wondering, I mean, honestly, this it sounds crazy. Why the hell would anyone want to buy Bitcoin right now when they could buy EpicCash? I know the answer. There's adoption. But once we peel back the layers of the onion, it just seems to me that EpicCash is everything good about Bitcoin. But now that you add the privacy into it, iron sharpens iron, man. You got to go with the better product.
Well, I mean, I think the way that I look at it is one man's bug is another man's feature, and if you want the following attributes of your money system, then BTC is a better form of Bitcoin for you. So if you prefer a system that is more centralized, then BTC is for you. If you like your transactions to be censorable, then BTC is better for you. If you like to have everyone everywhere see everything that you do with your money, then BTC is probably better for you. If you like to destroy the environment through wasteful, expensive ASICs that generate a lot of heat, then BTC is a better blockchain. Let me see what else. If you like to line the pockets of big banks that you access the system through rather than working with the blockchain yourself, I guess that could be a benefit. So yeah, if you prefer those attributes, then BTC is a better form of Bitcoin.
But
if not, then Epic is.
You keep saying BTC. I mean, I don't even think I can buy Bitcoin out there, right? I can buy BTC. I can buy BCH, BSV. Why don't you give us a little history lesson on that? Because wasn't the original ticker for Bitcoin XBT, Max?
Well, so it came out of I believe it's the ISO currency system, and many, many moons ago, I think most systems called it that, and over time it kind of transmorphed to the BTC ticker. But up until I think it was August of 2017, when what was once just Bitcoin split into first BTC and BCH, and then shortly thereafter BSV spun out of BCH, and so now you've got three primary derivatives of that same original chain living out there in the wild and evolving independently.
Is EpicCash then a derivative of the original Bitcoin?
It is not. Epic is its own code that does not share the lineage of the original Satoshi code. The original BTC code is written in C++, and Epic is written in Rust.
Okay, so you are not a fork. Then
correct.
When you talk about kind of EpicCash is the perfect Bitcoin, with privacy, how can you make that assertion if it's not a fork?
Well, I'm looking at the first page of the Bitcoin white paper from
Can you
Satoshi
share your
Nakamoto.
screen?
Sure.
And what I want to get at, Max, while you're pulling it up, is I just want to, for myself, I have to dumb things down so that I'll understand it. And if I'm going to evangelize EpicCash, which the more I learn about it, the more I love it, I need to be able to back up my claims that that EpicCash is Bitcoin but better. And man, I just lost my entire screen. Am I still live?
I don't know. It says you're screen sharing. It says live.
Okay. so I literally lost my entire screen. Sorry about that, everyone. Okay, so let me get this out here. All right, we're looking at the DNA of Bitcoin. And
yes, so this is the first page of the Bitcoin white paper, and I think it bears close reading. It says a purely peer-to-peer version of electronic cash would allow online payments to be sent directly from one party to another without going through a financial institution. Digital signatures provide part of the solution, but the main benefits are lost if a trusted third party is still required. Now, he's talking about double spending because this is a technical document, but in terms of the way the network allows people to engage with one another, the same point applies here. And so Bitcoin is a peer-to-peer system that enables people to transmit value in the form of payments without going through a financial institution.
Can't you say that these days about just any coin? I mean, if I have a wallet and I know your address, I can send it without sending it through a financial institution.
So you technically are able to, if you have the requisite skills and knowledge to navigate what is very challenging for most people. I think it's somewhere less than 1% of activity is self-service like that. Might be less than 1/10 of 1%, depending on how you measure it. So just because you can hop in the ocean and swim to Australia doesn't mean that you can actually swim to Australia. And so it's kind of like that same thing. All right,
but I am now legitimately confused here because I'm a newbie and I figured out how to be able to go get Bitcoin, right? Initially. So I was able to get my fiat money to an exchange and get Bitcoin and put it in my wallet. So now I have it in my wallet. All right. So now I want to send you some Bitcoin because I like you. And I send you 100 Bitcoin because I really, really like you, Max.
But remember, I'm probably using an exchange that maybe doesn't like your coins and considers them tainted. And so just because you send them doesn't mean that they're actually going to hit my wallet.
But let's just imagine you have your own wallet that you're not sitting on an exchange. So you have your own wallet. I ask for your private wallet address. Let's say you hold it on your Trezor. And I send it from my Trezor to yours. That's peer-to-peer, and it's not going through a financial institution. Now, I will grant you that initially I got my Bitcoin from Coinbase, let's say, but I could have gotten it from a Bitcoin ATM, or somebody could have sent me a Bitcoin. So I'm just wanting to beat this up because somebody else is going to do it when they say, yeah, hold on.
Yeah, but you're in the distinct minority by doing all those things. So you're some people like to go and rough it out in the woods and live off the land, and others prefer the conveniences of Uber Eats. And so just sheerly by the numbers, the overwhelming majority of people don't do those types of self-service things that they should.
So I'm trying to understand then, how is EpicCash different then in comparison in this case where we're reading this paragraph? A purely peer-to-peer version of electronic cash would allow online payments to be sent directly from one party to another without going through a financial institution. You just told me that I am unique, that I'm part of the 1% club doing all of that other stuff. Well, how the heck do I get EpicCash then?
Well, the best way to do it is there's a number of differences. First of all, Epic is not available, at least currently, on any centralized exchanges like a Coinbase or a Kraken or anything like that. So the origination of where the coins get created is, of course, through mining, and there's a healthy P2P trade activity going on where miners hook up with people that want to buy. There's also,
and I love you, man, but I'm being hard on you today. Talk about now, if the other option was 1%, now we're talking 1% of 1%. People who are going to know to figure out how to go find a miner to be able to send them coins.
Yep. And back in 2011 in BTC, you had to send wire transfers to Japan, and it was considerably more difficult than today. So it's important to recognize where we are gestationally in our journey. Now, if we spin the clock forward a little bit and look back from the perspective of where things will be in the Epic vision of Bitcoin, let's say 2-3 years from now, and the BTC version of Bitcoin 2-3 years from now, is that our entire infrastructure is built up around this idea of P2P and people working directly with the blockchain rather than having started out using all these intermediaries like Coinbase and Binance and people in the middle to provide the on-ramps and off-ramps and things like that. So Epic begins its life as a direct medium of exchange, transactional currency for people to pay each other, whether they're bidding on art auctions or making Epic shirts or holding events or preloaded mining software. There's all kinds of micro examples of people in their own lives using it as a transactional mechanism. And that's really where the value is. Epic and BTC are the same as far as their moneyness. That comes from the Bitcoin standard emission model of the 21 million coins. But they vary dramatically in their ability to function as a currency, because we saw in April of this year, BTC fees hit $62, which wasn't actually even a record. It hit over $80 in December of 2017. And so from time to time, people are frozen out of using the network directly, which is another reason why many people don't choose to use things like a ledger or a Trezor, is if you settle the.
But isn't the value of a coin based upon adoption ultimately? So that's
Absolutely.
what, yep. Right? So when you think about adoption, you have to think about, newbies like me, right? Who I mean, I hear what you're saying, but ultimately, let me play the role of the person, probably people who watch this, who want to be able to find a good, safe, solid, investable coin that has all of the positive attributes of a non-pump and dump coin, which, go back and watch all of our videos. I think we have made a good case for that with EpicCash. But ultimately, you want to be able to have on-ramps and off-ramps to be able to make it easy. People like the easy button. And so,
100%.
And not everybody is just going to out of the blocks buy into your vision saying, hey, that's all, don't worry about the off ramps, because ultimately one day everyone's going to be paying each other in EpicCash. That takes a lot of trust.
Absolutely. Don't get me wrong. My point is just that number one is that all of the infrastructure that applies to BTC is fully capable of being brought into service to Epic as well. And just as we saw that 5 years ago, the only coin that would be on a platform is BTC, and then maybe eventually they added Ether, and then they added XRP, and now most platforms have lots of coins. It's the same thing there. We have to ascend the mountain one step at a time, and right. It doesn't happen overnight. So I'm explaining rather than excusing and accepting as indefinitely the case the fact that as a very young network that those options are currently limited, but they're not limited because we want them to be that way, and we're going to prevent that from happening. No, quite the opposite. There's all kinds of things going to connect Epic to all kinds of other systems of value, credit cards, debit cards, ACH, Cash App, Zelle, wire transfer, some of the regional payment systems out of the UK, like faster payments, and some of the Indian and Brazilian systems. There's all kinds of work going on to connect Epic to other systems of value. But you got to remember that these things take quite a bit of time, and there's no shortage of blockchain networks that places want to plug into. If you can spell blockchain and fog a mirror right now, then there's a lot of competition for your services. And so we're putting in the work every day to make those connections. Like anything else, it'll yield to effort. So one thing that I would call out to people who are listening to help with, that you can directly get involved, is that we prepared a 25-page PDF application to 5 different exchanges that are really a fit. That if they see
Can you
fit to add
can you
us.
pull up one of those just to be
Sure.
able to kind of show them? Maybe pull up the Genesis,
Yeah. Just give me one.
because I think that's good for people to see. And again, don't take me wrong. I'm not playing devil's advocate. I'm playing angel's advocate here, because these are questions I'm getting from people. Because it's like
That's what we're here to do.
the story is so darn good here. It is. I love how it was started as a fair launch. I love the ways that you add value to the blockchain by mining it or earning it or buying it. I know we're working on an easier button to be able to buy it, even though VDEX exchange, it's not that heavy of a lift. And I did make a video. Anybody who wants to buy EpicCash, it's why do I like EpicCash and how do you buy it? That's down below. Go find it. Not that hard. And when the easy button does come out, the new mobile wallet and the exchanges that we will get on, you're going to be talking about EpicCash in dollars, not cents. And so that's why it's probably hitting the smart button to go in right now. But I've been pummeled over the last couple of days, Max, of people who are like, what, everything's going up, but EpicCash is like dipped into the 30s. Why is that? And so I said, you know what? I'll ask Max, educate us on that, because I don't want people scared off either, because there's a really good answer to why, and it's based upon the life cycle that we're in. But can you just unpack that a little bit for the couple of people I know are watching?
Yeah, so we've been through, I would say, 3 or 4 different cycles of our journey thus far, and so I'm not surprised that you're getting that kind of a feedback, because each year in crypto is more like 3 or 4 or 5 years in the cadence of, let's say, the stock market with the quarterly cycles. Everything moves much faster. And our eyes play tricks on us when there are such dramatic moves with 10,000 assets. Something is always exploding. Usually there's also things that are collapsing, but the attention is on the, hey, Shiba Inu made my neighbor $250,000. Why not me? So it kind of skews our perspective. And so what we've seen is that when there is perceived progress, like let's say right now, we're very close to releasing an updated website about Epic that presents us in a new light. Whereas if you go right now, you see an old site that's slow to load from 2 years ago, and it looks like nothing is happening. It takes a lot of bandwidth to dig into the substance that's here and appreciate it, and not everyone is willing, able, or interested enough to keep their finger on the pulse. And
that's why we're here.
Yeah, and we can certainly do a better job of making that easier and making it less of a lift to receive the high points of what's going on. So I would say that the progress continues, and the price usually does nothing for a long time, and then all of a sudden will catch up. I think we've had 3 or 4 major spikes where we'll go from one level to the next. And then in the absence of that shot of stimulus, like a junkie that needs a fix on the right time cycle, if it's not there, then it kind of deflates. We've seen that a lot. And so usually there's a consolidation down to above the level of the lows before. And then it kind of waits around until something happens, and then it punches through to a new high. And so
do you have, I have never done this. Do you have a visual history of EpicCash?
Sure.
to see the chart? Because I'd love to see that.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. Yeah, let's
All right.
talk about that.
So this data starts in September. We launched a few weeks before, and there were hardly any coins out, and that was the heaviest inflation. It was 6 coins per block. So this is usually what you see in the beginning of a proof of work network, as it starts off at some high number and then finds the equilibrium, and it kind of bounces along. So here, let's see, if we go to March of 2020, what you just described to me now was a lot of the same type of things that people were saying at that point. Maximum pessimism, nothing is happening. Okay, I guess this thing is dead, Jim, let's move on. But we kept head down and kept working. And so slowly, over the course of that summer, hey, okay, now a sub 1 cent coin is 5 cents. Would you look at that? And okay, and of course, what I heard then was, yeah, all the money's been made. It's game over. All those early whales have gotten rich and dumped and moved on to the next one. But we kept plugging along, and so we're pumping along through summer, and then and I don't even remember what happened here, but it was August. Looks like it was 50 cents. I mean, who knows? It's seemingly so random. I can never predict. It's like pushing on a string forever, and then some gust of wind will cause.
Couldn't it be? Couldn't it be just because this was my experience? I think if you go over to May, if you take a look at May, see where there's that weird line. Well, one of these is I remember when I threw, I kind of went in fairly big on this, just after having you on a couple of times. I'm like, I love what I'm hearing. And I know that when it doesn't take much at all in that exchange to drive the price up at all. It's like, I think my transaction alone took it from like 45 cents to everyone was, woohoo, it's hitting 90 cents or something like that.
Oh, well, look at this. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and there are structural reasons for that as well. So let's go back to February 2021 here. Looks like the highest that it ever printed at on here was what was it, $1.19. I think it may have even gotten to $1.28 on VTEX. But it really doesn't take a lot of a lot of actual dollar value to move these thin markets. And so right now, when things are basically in equilibrium, you have sellers that they see the book in there and go, okay, well, if I want to sell this at any time in the next month, let's say, without getting slaughtered, I'm going to throw it up. Okay, maybe I'm happy at 50 cents. Let me throw it in there. And they just leave it there. But then when the market starts running, a lot of times those guys will pull the offers. And that's why you see this vacuum effect where it just shoots vertical. So if you go here to March, so we were, let's see, end of January, 21 cents. Oh my God, this thing's dead, Jim. We're throw in the towel. Let's move to the next one. I guess this thing sucks. And then boom, a week. What was that? Let's see, February. 3 weeks later, 20-cent coins are now over $1, and the volume was strong as well. So you go from hardly being able to sell it, and if you do, you get slaughtered, to being able to name your price and sell into the strength. So what I always look at on these types of things is, on balance, where is the greater risk, and what are the upcoming catalysts? Is it a greater risk at a $5 million market cap to be positioned in or positioned out? We're continuing to build. There's a lot of great stuff that is nearing public awareness of the fact that it's out there. I mean, because you're watching, and I know, and the people building it. No, but there's not a lot of wider exposure. And so are the people who know about Epic going to forget about it? No. Are the millions of people, the 221 million crypto users that are now active who have never heard of Epic, are some of them going to hear about it? I think so. Is it going to get harder to buy or easier to buy? Likely easier. Are we going to lose our existing places to buy? No, we're going to get more places to buy. And so for all those reasons, particularly since it doesn't take a lot of new blood coming in to drive it, I think there's greater risks to be positioned on the sidelines, trying to time market dips and read the tea leaves of the charts versus a patient acquisition strategy. The dollar cost averaging strategy beats 95% of active traders, and it's a lot easier to implement. So in the short-term markets are voting machines and their popularity contests, but in the long term, they're weighing machines, and their job is to find value. So I think for me, I look at Epic as very similar. What someone noted on Reddit about a year ago, which is a great post that maybe somebody can find, called Next XVG. If we look at the historical data here. So similar small cap privacy coin project. It was around for a while. They were building 2014, 2015, and they just kept doing their thing. And then boom. So you had coins that were half a cent that now were worth 25 cents. Now in this case, Verge didn't have the staying power to support that market cap. But if you were in the right place at the right time with your finger on the trigger, that was a life-changing reward for you. I know the story of many people that successfully sold into that strength and were able to do quite well for themselves. And if you look at it, because there was enough community there and people believed, they kept building and lived to fight another day. And so here, 3.5 years later, after that initial spike, there's new life and new activity and people that still like that project and are growing with it. And it'll probably have a new phase of growth ahead of it sometime down the line. And those people's patience will be rewarded. So everything old is new again, and there's nothing new under the sun. And if we look at the history of similar types of networks out there, it can serve as a guide for what we might expect if we use their experience as a basis.
So can you go right now then to Bitcoin, and let's do a similar view of how Bitcoin looks? Because I look at that, and after my PTSD of the Darrow, pump and dump, I look at that and say, yeah, good for the people that are selling into that buying opportunity, but there's people on the other side of that equation too. So see, this shows it going up ultimately over the years, the trajectory versus going up like Verge and then smashing down, and then 3 years and kind of getting up and then smashing down. That's what I'm hoping to we avoid with EpicCash, because it is more Bitcoin than Bitcoin is. So my hope is that we start seeing it more like this, to where people, as it's adopted and people recognize it has all the positive attributes of Bitcoin, but none of the pitfalls of surveillance, that we might not be looking at a spike and then down, and the community that hangs in there for 3 years and then it goes up again. This is probably not the conversation that you thought you were going to have today, but I'm just addressing it because I'm getting it from people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the value of BTC was supported by its utility. That what could you do with the coins? Well, you could transfer them to people, and you could count on them to be scarce. That's the other thing, is that because BTC depends on the centralized exchanges, which do fractional reserves and rehypothecation and play games with managing their books and stuff, the supply of BTC is effectively much greater than 21 million. It's literally incalculable. And Epic doesn't have that, and likely won't have that, certainly not to the same extent, because our coming of age is of a later sort of a post-centralized exchange generation. And so I expect that as it becomes realized that you can't really do much with BTC aside from sit on it, where exactly is the value? It's supported by the belief that there will be a greater someone in the future to buy it from you at a greater price, and the question of why they would buy it is left unanswered. It's a faith-based construct rather than a utility-based construct. And the value of Epic, volatile as it is likely to continue to be for quite some time, is ultimately on a more solid footing, because it's based on the alternative use of other networks that cost more, are slower, and have worse service. If you absolutely positively must have your documents delivered to a city around the world at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, you send them through FedEx, because they have the reliable service that you can count on. BTC used to be a reliable way to get value to people. If you paid the fee, you knew it was going to get through in 10 minutes or however many block confirmations. And that's no longer the case. So if you need your payment to get through, and you need to be sure that it's going to get through, then Epic is an alternative for you. And the prior market leader, BTC, has abdicated its throne and exited the field of battle, because it is unable to achieve that performance.
See, that's a beachhead, but then I could throw at you, okay, well, there's been alternative like Litecoin. Litecoin is faster. It's really fast. It's cheap and stuff. But then
it's censorable and
that's
surveillable.
Right. Okay, see, that's where I want to get at with this, is I want to ask these hard questions so that people will arrive at the conclusions themselves. After you really beat it up, at the end of the day, what's left standing is EpicCash. And ultimately, it's not if, it's when. It's when people start figuring this out and start realizing, whoa, everything that I thought I had as a store of value in BTC, which is not Bitcoin, by the way, but it is what we deal with today. Everything I thought I had, we really don't. It is being surveilled. There are risks. I mean, my goodness, there's a lot of people watching this channel who transacted a lot on Trade Ogre. I mean, there are exchanges now that aren't accepting tainted coins that they know came from Trade Ogre. And
they're not even saying they're tainted. They're saying that if you deposit from Trade Ogre, that simply because they came from Trade Ogre, they're too stinky. They're not going to accept them. Right.
So now in that case, let's say Epic. Oh, this is really interesting. Let's say Epic starts to be traded on Trade Ogre, because I don't think you control that. Do you, Max? I mean, it's really kind of whether they start.
GitHub.com/EpicCash. Anyone, anywhere can do anything they want with the Epic network, and not a soul alive can do anything to prevent it.
Okay, so Trade Ogre could start trading EpicCash, and if they did, and somebody sent EpicCash to those same exchanges, is there any benefit because it is invisible? Or
exactly, yeah. Epic cannot be surveilled and traced in that same way.
So they would not be able to know that it came from Trade Ogre.
Every Epic is exactly the same as every other Epic. And there's only a handful of currencies on the market that have that true fungibility that only comes from always on.
Okay, now we're cooking with gas. Now we're cooking with gas. So if you send a Bitcoin from an exchange that or from a place that these exchanges deem to be stinky, then you're at the risk of the whims of these exchanges. But what Max is saying is, because of how EpicCash was created and designed with Mimblewimble, there is no way anybody knows where that came from. Period. End of story. So you have to take that risk off the table. You don't have to deal with that risk. And so, Trade Ogre, if you want to start trading EpicCash, bring it on. I would say caveat emptor to those people who are sending BTC and such or holding anything there, because I don't think that is, by the definition of the Druid Babylonian bastards, a legal exchange.
Well, it gets even worse, because if you withdraw once to your ledger, and then all your other funds that came into your ledger are now guilty by association because you dripped one little iota of coins into there. Now you're hosed. The data panopticon is forever. So you may risk your account somewhere without even thinking about it 3 years from now, because some obscure piece of metadata just got linked by some machine learning algorithm, and now the fiat rails that you depend on for your particular use case just vaporize from under you. Binance just closed its non-verified accounts. In other words, without providing KYC. It used to be 2 BTC a day. Now it's 0.06.
Jesus.
They reduced it by 97%. And so people that used to rely on that venue to trade are now having to find alternatives, and they're finding that the doors are closed. And so I would encourage people to not take the things for granted in terms of ability to trade, because I don't know if you caught the crypto infrastructure bill, or the infrastructure bill that wants to claim $28 billion of funding by saddling everyone and everything in crypto with laws that are literally impossible to even get your head around how you might conceivably comply with. Jake Chervinsky has a great tweet stream on this that I retweeted earlier. And so these are dangerous times. You can't take it for granted that your ability to even do such things as send value from your exchange to your poker buddy, because you may have to KYC your poker buddy in order to get Coinbase or whoever to process the withdrawal. They won't have any choice in the matter. They're regulated, and they're going to have to follow that. And so if we want permissionless innovation, and we want open access networks that don't require the creation of this whole trust grid coming from the financial intermediaries that we rely on to interface with these obsolete networks like BTC and LTC and all the ones pre-Mimblewimble, then we're stuck. And so that's why I continue to meet here with you every weekend to figure out how to get these points across. And I don't mind at all the hard questions, and you don't need to pull any punches. And we're here to find the truth and the path. And it's worth, whatever bruises we get along the way to get that outcome.
Yeah, I would just rather be candid up front and talk to you about what people are talking to me. And frankly, we had the conversation yesterday, what I feel internally,
Mm-hmm.
but then you do a rift like you just did. And if that didn't get people's attention, I mean, I don't know what will. They're already crafting these laws. Again, it's not if, it's when that they publish them. And so you might just want to take a little deeper dive into this crazy thing that we're talking about all the time called EpicCash. And you might want to figure out how to get it while it's not that expensive, because once people do start really, really figuring this out, then you're going to see a point to where you're going to say, damn, I remember when I was watching Uncle V, when he was when he was like complaining about the fact that it dipped from 50 cents to 39 cents. Why is that when everything else is going up, Max? And Max answered that, or at least attempted to. And I remember those days. Meanwhile, EpicCash is trading for lots and lots of dollars. So that's what I believe. But you know me, I don't know shit. And but I am trying to be able to serve you, to unpack each week with Max at least where this project is, where it's heading. I know, Max, we have less than 10 minutes, and we're going to keep it to 1 hour for everybody's sanity. What else? What are we missing here? So this is Gemini.
We did a comprehensive survey. I've personally engaged with probably around 100 different exchange venues over the past 2 years. So we've really done an exhaustive research of the landscape and engaged to try and find the best partners. And what we came up with was Bittrex USA, Coin Metro in Estonia, Gate.io out of Hong Kong, Gemini out of USA, and then Digifinex out of Seychelles emerged as really solid potential partners that we could feel comfortable encouraging our users to use, because after all centralized infrastructure, if you don't own the keys, you don't own the coins. And so you're taking a risk. And so having done that deep diligence to know who can be trusted for our users to rely on, we came up with those. And then we prepared a 25-page document tailored for each, presenting our case of why we think it's in their best business interest to add support for Epic, and really present ourselves as available to help them in whatever way they may need. So,
can anyone find this document now, or is it still behind?
Absolutely. It's all of these are available in the main Telegram. It's EpicCash on Telegram, just t.me/EpicCash from any browser. And you can find it through the search function. We do everything out in the open. Everything that we do is always published, available on our websites and social media and Telegram groups and all that. So it takes a bit of searching sometime, but it is always available.
Okay, great.
So that's a screenshot of the mobile wallet. That's another thing I know we're gonna run through and show people the screenshots of. We're about to ship V3, which enables sending to an address. Right now, transactions are interactive in Epic, which means it requires a multi-part exchange to do the multiple halves of the transaction. And here it enables a fire and forget send to an address feature, just like alphanumeric string at epic.tech. And then that basically handles that message passing behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. And so that was some of the feedback that we got from centralized platforms, was that the nature of Mimblewimble prevented them from using the same business processes as they were used to, and that it needed to be economical for them to make those changes. And so that was a point of friction and a blocker. That there are many of those types of similar gating factors that are non-obvious that continue to be to recede behind the scenes. And so being able to come back to them and say, hey, we listened, we took care of it. Now, from a workflow perspective, your withdrawals from exchanges, from your platform to the users, is exactly the same as any other coin, reduces a point of friction there, and shows that we're a good partner in supporting their interests. So what we really can use people's help on is getting the attention of these platforms. If you trade there, please put a customer service ticket in. If you tag them on Twitter or go to their Telegram group, or fill out their surveys and forms. You can't have too much, but you can have too little. And so everybody who is willing to help pitch in with their efforts, we never know which of those voices is going to be heard, and which door knocked on will yield to the result. But I think that we will achieve the milestone of a piece of key infrastructure, which is a good centralized exchange platform. I don't think it's far off. I think that it's time, and that the numbers are there. Even on VTEX, some days Epic trades over $100,000, and there's been days closer to $200,000, and so the numbers are there to justify the setup cost of adding a new network to their platform. And so I think the commercial logic is ultimately what gets it to happen. But we should marshal our resources and focus our efforts as a team on trying to engineer that.
And
outcome.
is it fair to say, I mean, as I've observed, it's almost like EpicCash is like a good wine. It just gets better over time, versus when you think about some of these coins that are pre-mined, where they then have these funds that they can throw at exchanges to pay $1 million
Yes.
or whatever, right? And that's a big difference. Organic growth is firm footing. It's a strong foundation, versus these founders that have these coins that they can go out and, at the expense ultimately of new investors, they can throw money around to be able to buy influencers, buy exchanges, to be able to get that activity, and then you're buying into their sell walls,
And
right?
use market makers to set the price.
What is a
at
market maker?
any number.
Educate us on market makers.
So a market maker is essentially a dealer that puts out inventory, offers for sale and offers to buy at either side of the midpoint into what's called the bid-ask spread.
Mm-hmm.
And so the idea of a market maker is that an independent trader can find the other side of the trade, whether they want to buy or sell. And it provides sort of like a cushioning effect, you could say, to the otherwise choppy nature of the markets. That's another reason for the volatility of Epic, by the way, is because there are no professional market makers out there that are providing their capital out there. And so they do serve a function economically. They reduce spreads and deepen liquidity. So that's a good thing. But the problem is that in these thin and illiquid markets that are controlled by a handful of holders, that they wield the ability to exercise market power and kind of make the reality on the ground be whatever they want, which, if you couple that with coordinated social media activity in the positive or negative direction, you can make a lot of money from the FUD and the FOMO. And so Epic is more organic. Right now there's 8, the primary investment into the network is not new capital coming in of people buying coins. That's always an option there. But the biggest force by the numbers is the 8 coins every minute that come out of the mining, which is about 11,500 a day. Call it 50 cents. That's about $6,000 a day from the wider world coming into the network in the form of electricity. And you can see that here on the hash rate, because we've got the 3 different sub-markets for the RandomX CPU miners, the ProgPow GPU miners in blue, and then the Cuckoo miners that use special type of equipment for the yellow. And the other thing is that in October, that goes down from 8 coins to 4. So 5,760 coins per day that are entering the market are not going to be entering the market. And then that screw tightens ever further down to 2 coins 2 years later, 1 coin 2 years later, and then finally down to 0.15 coins. So right now, the supply is 50 times higher in terms of coins per day that are created than it will be in 7 years. And so, yeah, the bottle of fine wine is on the shelf. It's getting better, not worse. and you're getting paid to wait, because the number of people that are able to use this network to transact value is only growing, and the emission of coins is dramatically shrinking. And so that's a powerful recipe for combustion, however long that takes.
Okay, that makes sense to me right there. So we're gonna wrap it up on that because it is 1 o'clock and we promised we'd do that. So Max, again, thank you. I appreciate that. This was educational for me. And next week, we don't know what we're going to talk about, do we? It just happens. Do you want to leave with anything before we hop off?
No, just thanks everybody for being a part of the journey and tuning in. And our goal with these shows is to get a handful of % better every week, every time we do it. And so if you have suggestions on how we can create a better show, please let us know in the comments or through the Uncle V's Telegram lounge, and we'll keep putting the effort in. And success is like rust. It accumulates over time, and we'll get there eventually if we keep putting the effort in.
Absolutely. And that reminds me, I'm really crappy about this, but hey guys, smash the like button. You know, maybe send my channel to some of your friends, people who might be new into crypto or interested in the crypto or different perspective of crypto. And certainly when I post all of these down below, I do have ways that you can support me if you like the content. Some of my favorite are when I get a little, cigar or two in the mail because I have a PO box down there, and that goes to the Uncle V Cigar Fund. Yeah, just smash the like button. It makes a difference. Spread the word. And I know that some days it may feel like this is just pivoted to be an EpicCash channel, but it's just because I am dedicated to just documenting my journey. And this is where I am in my journey. And it's all making a lot of clear sense to me. And I feel like I am finally taking my financial future into my control, because I want to go narrow and deep. Because when you go wide and shallow, I think therein lies a lot of opportunity for people to come in and pick your pockets. So I'd rather go narrow and deep on some projects and really, really try to determine whether or not it is worthy of my hard-earned dollars and time to support this or not. And where I'm landing right now is that EpicCash checks that box. So I hope it does for you too. So come on over to Telegram, Uncle Vigilante Lounge. That's t.me/Uncle Vigilante Lounge. Come on over there, say hello. And it's really a great community in there. And then t.me/EpicCash, of course, for the EpicCash community as well. All right, guys, I will talk with you. We will talk with you through the week. I am going to take a cigar walk.